Today on the program, we take a closer look at road infrastructure in the FCT with the aim of answering a very pertinent question. Why are there so many ongoing projects that seem not to have completion dates in Abuja? Are there problems we don't know about? What's the plan for rural areas where road networks are crucial to ensuring security of the residents? And then there's the issue of vandalism of road infrastructure. If these infrastructures cannot be protected, isn't it time for the FCT administration to think outside the box? We speak with the Executive Secretary of the Federal Capital Development Authority on the plans to make the FCT a world-class capital city for the country. In our Abuja wrap, the Deputy Secretary of the United Nations, Mrs. Amina Mohammed, pays a visit to President Muhammadu Buhari and weighs in on the End SARS protests, calling for more engagement between the youth and the government. Speaking of the youth, President Buhari launches a Young Farmers Initiative, and the federal government calls for caution with the discovery of the new coronavirus vaccine. All these and more this week on Dateline Abuja. Hello and welcome to Dateline Abuja. I am Kayla Megwa. Some roads in the FCT seem to have been ignored for years. Roads like the Nyanya Market Road, the Apokarshi Road, Arab Road in Kubwa, and the Federal Housing Road in Lugbe, among others. And then there are roads in the rural areas that criminals bank on to carry out their nefarious acts. We'll get to that later, but first, let's take a look at the main activities from the presidency this week on our Abuja wrap. The Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations, Mrs. Amina Mohammed, was in the country earlier in the week as part of a series of visits to some African countries to discuss strategies to rebuild setbacks caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. First, she had a meeting with President Muhammadu Buhari. After the meeting, she spoke about the End SARS protests.
It was unfortunate, and we believe that in addressing the demands that were made by the young people, perhaps this is a lesson that we can take into the future on how we engage on such issues. I have to say that, there are many protests around this world that have been exacerbated by COVID, because COVID has left people out of work, it's left people hopeless, because of the socioeconomic impacts. And in many of those protests, we have not seen governments turn around and respond as quickly as this government did. So the UN's response to this is that we must make sure that what happened in these protests is we are able to address those issues, those gaps, and to begin the reform. In fact, I would say the transformations that are needed to address many of these outstanding issues. And for that, we need an engaged youth, and we need an engaged government.
Meanwhile, the United Nations, in collaboration with some development partners, are mobilizing $250 million to complement Nigeria's COVID-19 economic recovery efforts under the Nigerian Economic Sustainability Plan. Tagged the United Nations Plus offer for socio-economic recovery, the UN Deputy Secretary General, Mrs. Mohammed, flagged off the program in the company of the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo.
This is very helpful to us because we put together a plan that will cost us 2.3 trillion. Half of that, as I pointed out earlier, is in the form of loans and facilities. The other half of it, of course, is budgeted funds. But we still have a huge gap, and that gap, I think, has been very well made up for by this initiative.
The UN top official also launched another initiative for the nation's human capital development. This time, it is the Generation Equality Campaign. Mrs. Mohammed explains that the campaign is to push for a generational transition, equality in the level of education, and prioritizing issues of gender equality, which she sees as crucial to achieving stability and sustainable development.
Generation equality is about older and younger generations learning from each other, but critically, it is for us, the older generation, to hand the baton over to young people to carry on our mutual vision for a more prosperous and gender equal Nigeria. However, less than 10% are attending tertiary education. Quality and the level of our education is critical to that generational equality agenda.
In the meantime, President Muhammadu Buhari is describing agriculture as the backbone of Nigeria's economy. Speaking at the launch of the National Young Farmers Scheme, the president believes that the inclusion of young people in driving modern methods of farming would provide the needed boost for Nigeria's economy. The scheme is designed by the National Agricultural Land Development Authority to increase the interest of young people in agriculture. Under the scheme, 1,000 young farmers will be engaged from each of the local government areas in the country.
National Agricultural Land Development Authority, NALDA, is a very important tool in our drive to achieve food security in Nigeria and a very strong avenue to engage our youth into gainful employment. This government will do everything to ensure that NALDA's mandate is translated to food security and sufficiency in the country. I have given all the necessary approvals that NALDA requires for effective take-up, beginning with areas of adequate land preparation for crop farming and livestock rearing. Agriculture is the backbone of our economy and the largest contribution to our GDP. But we could do more to expand, modernize, and revolutionize our agriculture, which is our most important asset.
Staying with engaging young people, President Buhari is urging the international community and investors to take advantage of the country's diversity in human and natural resources for investment, noting that youth development, integration, and employment remain a priority for his administration. He made the statement when he received the letters of credence from the ambassadors of Belgium, Mauritania, Austria, and Norway.
Allow me to offer you my sincere congratulations as you commence your diplomatic duties as defined by Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations. As we celebrate its 60th anniversary next year, it is my hope that you will carry out your respective mandates to improve existing cordial relations between our countries consistent with the provisions of this time-honored convention. Present here today are principal representatives of 4 sovereign countries, namely Austria, Belgium, Mauritania, and Norway. Each of these countries carries its own unique history, zealously guards its national interests, values, and visions. Nigeria enjoys very good bilateral relations with your respective countries and has collaborated at the multilateral level to achieve targets set by several international conventions and treaties established by our respective nations. We need to enhance the existing cordial relations between us in the interest of our peoples and countries. Nigeria is ready to pursue broader dialogue as well as enhanced cooperation and collaboration.
President Buhari also presided over the 23rd Virtual Federal Executive Council meeting, where several memos were approved. One of them is the ratification of Nigeria's membership of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. The federal government is approaching the news of a breakthrough in the search for a vaccine for the coronavirus with caution. Addressing a news conference in Abuja, the chairman of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, Mr. Boss Mustafa, explains that the timeline for Nigeria to assess the vaccine is not yet clear. Welcome back. Our feature story takes us around the FCT to examine the state of roads across the city, how long the constructions have lasted for, the challenges with their completion, and the state of roads in the rural areas. The Federal Capital Territory is blessed with well-laid and expansive road networks, especially in the city center, where most government offices and public officials reside. However, the state of the roads in some of the satellite towns where most workers reside leaves little to be desired. Gaba community is in the Buhari Area Council and is located 57 kilometers from the city center. The residents are predominantly farmers. Most of the agricultural produce in the entire Buhari Area Council comes from this community. However, they struggle with access to their community because of the bad state of the road.
This side you are seeing right now is the only place we can manage. Once you just reach the other side, before you pass there, the poto there will even be as if it want to swallow your machine tire. So since from that place going upward, the road is not good. A journey that will take 1 hour or less even 5 minutes, you take you like 1 hour. You see, that is not good. So that is the challenge you are having here.
This gully erosion is further threatening to cut off the community. The leadership of the council insists that the repair of the road is beyond them.
About 80 to 85% of the food you see in the market within Buhari Area Council are produced within this area. So you cannot just write this area off in terms of agricultural produce. So it has economic importance to the council, and cutting this road off is going to be a big blow on the side of the council. This is beyond the council, and the council has written to relevant agency to see how they could intervene and salvage this situation.
Every morning, workers in the public and private sector make their way into the nation's capital in search of their daily living. Their movement is worsened by the traffic they face each time they're either heading to their places of business or on their way back home. Naturally, their concern is not the state of the roads in the city center. They are more concerned about the state of the roads in the satellite towns.
If you go to Dusi Alhaji, there's no road there. You go to this Maraba road, there's no road there. Every day you wake up from your house, going to work, you have to wake by 4 o'clock. Going home, you have to stay back at 9 o'clock. And you have a family that will welcome. Maybe before you get home, your family, your children, they will be asleep before coming. It's not good. They should walk on that road.
This year, the Federal Executive Council approved several road contracts for the Federal Capital Territory. Some of them are the rehabilitation of roads in the Gwagwalada Area Council and the upgrading of the Kwali Town Road project, both at the cost of 1.6 billion naira. Road projects in the city center are also getting attention.
Today, there was an approval for the contract for the full-scale development of arterial road, which we call N20, which is the road that is linking Sheikh Musa Way, also called the Northern Parkway, with the Murtala Muhammad Way, which is popularly known as the Kubwa Expressway. This project involves the full-scale construction of that road, including a number of bridges and the normal telecommunication, power, water lines in line with the general standard of roads in the FCT. The contractor for that project is Gilmore Engineering Nigeria Limited, and the project is a contract of 30 billion.
According to the FCT administration, funding is a major challenge in the effort to fix roads in the nation's capital. To remedy the situation, the Nigerian Society of Engineers wants the government to allow the private sector take over some of the roads.
There should be a partnership between the government and the private sector, so that some of these roads should come out, be managed by private individuals. They'll bring in their money and their resources and then get these roads fixed up. Satellite towns are springing up every day in Abuja because it's the federal capital. People are flocking into Abuja every day. They need to sit somewhere. Government cannot provide infrastructures to all these places. They cannot.
In the meantime, the administration is proposing to spend about 45.5 billion naira on capital projects in its 2021 National Priority Capital Projects. Several of these projects are listed among the roads to be given attention. Some of the projects proposed include the construction of the Southern Parkway Road in the Central Business District, the rehabilitation and the expansion of the Outer Northern Expressway project, which links the Presidential Villa, rehabilitation and expansion of the Airport Expressway, as well as several roads in the satellite towns. The administration insists that its principle is to complete all existing projects before taking on new ones. When the FCT minister, Mr. Mohammed Bello, came into office 5 years ago, he promised to complete all ongoing road projects in the FCT. How much of that promise has he kept? Our guest on the program is Engineer Umar Jibrin, the Executive Secretary of the Federal Capital Development Authority. He tells me that his office has an interesting plan to stop vandalism of road infrastructure in the nation's capital. Engineer Jibrin, it's nice to see you again.
It's my pleasure to have you here.
You know, when the FCT minister came into power, one of the first things he said was that they were going to complete a lot of the uncompleted projects, especially road projects in the FCT. That was one of the major promises he made. How far have we gone with that promise?
I think we have gone a long way because there were so many of these roads within the city in particular that have been either truncated or have been turned into a kind of, series of blockages. You'll be moving and you have to divert because there is one obstruction or the other because of the lack of continuity. The first of it was the airport road. Certainly, from the time he came in, we were able to remove all those barriers. If you remember, in those days, you will be diverting to one lane and then you come back to this side. Eventually, he made the funds available, even though in a very, trickle manner, but we were able to at least accomplish and get the airport road fully on course. The next one is the AYA. You remember in those days, from coming into the city from the Yanyang end, you will not have this smooth movement that you do now on the popular Goodluck Ebele Jonathan Expressway. And it's there for anybody to see. We're not done with it at the intersection with the Outer Southern Expressway, the one just behind the villa. But we're also working to complete the entire loop arrangement there so that that continuation into the city on the Ebele Jonathan will be expanded to include movement from it down onto the Outer Southern Expressway, or if you want to go back towards the Onyx, which is also going back towards Kubwa Road. But specifically the linkage at the point where the Yanya Road, which is the Ebele Jonathan Road, crossed the Outer Northern and the Outer Southern, which is the one that takes you towards the Gudu area. That place, you can now only go on top of the bridge to go into, past the Villa Gate, and then you come into the Central Business District. There is no way you now come down and follow it to go towards Gudu. They are now currently working on it, so that's what I'm referring to, the complete cloverleaf that will give you the chance to go down to the lower ground or come up if you want, depending on the direction you want to go.
Granted, a lot of these constructions are ongoing right now, and a lot of work has been done, but there are many roads that have been largely ignored. I want to get to them. The Apokarshi Road, that Lugbe Road, the Nyanya Market Road, that one has been like that forever. And then, of course, there's the Kado Fish Market Road, that place at Life Camp, and then the Arab Road in Kubwa. What's the status? What's going on with the construction of these roads?
We have been able to take some of them to a level, and then we're now going to go on to continue with it, like the one you call...
like the Arab Road?
Not Arab Road. Arab Road, you're talking in Kubwa, is it? Yes. Yeah, but right now you notice that there is work going on from the Zuba Road now, the main expressway, the Outer Northern Expressway, Murtala Mohammed. If you take the one that goes to Lower Usman Dam or Buhari, at the Dusa El Haji portion of it, the work is going on now. It's part of the attempt to make these roads more, accessible for commuters, and it will link you up to the one heading towards Buhari. That's the one that is making the link to Kaduna through Jere. all these are currently, under construction. They are making it, we are doing everything to make sure that the Dutse Alhaji segment is concluded before the end of the year, or at best by the...
Because that place has a massive hold up every day. They did one side. There's the side that leads to the army estate was done. It's the other side where the market is.
Right now they are working on the other side. Previously the rains was a constraint, and then of course the COVID came in, so they had to suspend work. But right now they are there trying to conclude this other lane, like you rightly said, and that will take the pressure off that segment. It's probably because of the market and our own attitudes. Otherwise, it's something that can be done even as movement, is happening on the stretch. But I think we're working very hard to bring it to, completion, and then everything will be properly in the way it should be. The one on the old Karmo you're talking about, you notice that from the Jabi end up to the Lifecam junction, it's now completed. We are going to continue, going towards what we call the Ring Road 3, okay? Because that is the one that is not in the old Karmo Road. It's not in our arrangement at all. There is going to be a new one that will link up with the expressway of the Ring Road 3, so that it gives connections to other districts within that area. And that one too is coming on board very, very shortly.
Road construction in the FCT it's ongoing. There's constant road construction.
We're complying mostly with the master plan arrangement. Yes. So the entire arrangement is on ground. It's just that we keep moving in phases and in segments, because that's the natural way to go. Otherwise, it won't make any much of sense.
Let's talk a bit about rural areas. What's the plan for roads in the rural areas? Because many rural areas, look at that Jere.
Of course, that one is ongoing, like I said.
Yes.
And
but imagine those villagers that have to come out to Jere. Imagine those people, if they're coming to that Duse market. It's a nightmare for them, for them to come out of their rural areas to be able to enter the city center to do what it is that they need to do. And we know that a lot of people who are working in the city center actually come from those places to work here. So what are we doing about the access roads in the rural areas in the FCT?
Okay, you see that one that we're working on, the one that takes you to Jere and then up back to the Kaduna Road. Once the thing is completed, the natural linkages to it will come in, because right now you wouldn't even know where there is a connection to it. But by the time the road is done completely, then the one from Jere, the one from the southern Kaduna side will come in, and then it will feed into it and head to Kaduna side. But what I'm saying is, very recently, I think about maybe 3 weeks ago, there was a contract that was given by the Federal Executive Council for rural roads in the FCT, specifically in the Gwagwalada and Kwali, within Gwagwalada and Kwali area councils, under the Satellite Towns Development Department. So it's part of the, coming in of new rural roads that will help to bring in all the food, agri products that are coming from those locations. It will be much easier for them coming into the city now.
Well, good luck with all the projects that you have coming up, and we're looking forward to following up on those projects.
Thank you so very much.
Will we see Abuja truly become a world-class city before the end of this administration? What this administration keeps trying to do is return Abuja's road network to its original plan. The problem is, there's no definite time when this will be completed. The good news is, at least the Gwagwalada and Kwali roads, recently approved by FEC for 1.6 billion naira, have a 6-month completion plan. And we have been promised that several roads in the rural areas will be fixed. Until then, residents will have to suffer the agonies brought on by plying bad roads in the FCT. And on that rather sad note, we come to the end of this week's edition of the program. Remember to keep us updated with happenings in your neighborhood using the social media handles on your screen. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Kayla Magwa. See you next time.